Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Workamping Q&A webinar. I'm Jody Anderson-Duquette. I'm the Executive Director here at WorkCamperNews, and I've been helping RVers and the businesses that hire them for about 16 years now. So I'm excited to be online today and talk with you guys about this awesome lifestyle that is Workamping. So for those of you who are online live with us today, thanks so much for joining in. We had many questions submitted ahead of time, but I'm happy to take questions from those of you who are live with us today. So if you are attending this live and you do want to type in a question or some input, you should have, if you're on a desktop computer, you should have a control panel there with a questions or chat section that you can type into. If you're on a smartphone or tablet, you should be able to find along the bottom an option that says questions that you can tap on to then type in your questions. If you are on a smartphone or tablet, you have the option of seeing either my video or my PowerPoint slide. So if you just swipe on your screen, you can go back and forth between the video and the PowerPoint. So in my PowerPoint presentation, I'll just have a couple of the questions that were asked ahead of time, so that way you know what we're talking about when we're talking about it. We are recording this webinar, and I will place this on the media library at workamper.com, which is where we house a lot of our videos. We also have the WorkCamperNews YouTube channel, so you can find recordings of these webinars there as well. So definitely be sure to check that out on YouTube. Lots of great content there. So, all right, that's all the housekeeping we need to get out of the way. So let me go ahead and advance one more here. And now we do these webinars, anyone is welcome to attend. So many of you listening in, perhaps you're not familiar yet with WorkCamperNews. So just want to take a minute here to introduce you to us. We are the entity that created the term workamping. We started the industry and the community over 34 years ago now. So many of you maybe have seen our magazines floating around. We do publish a bi-monthly magazine with job listings in it, but most of our resources are now online, as you RVers are all over the place and don't want to worry about mail. So workcamper.com is our online home, and there you will find the most job listings, the most robust resources, and educational stuff for work campers to help you learn all about the lifestyle and how to live it successfully. So you don't have to be a member of WorkCamperNews to be a work camper and take these jobs, but we make it a whole lot easier for you guys to do so. So if you haven't yet, please go over to workcamper.com. We do have a free 30-day trial of our diamond level membership, as we are a yearly membership organization. See, our website is completely custom built, and we're working on it all the time. We're completely supported by our WorkCamper members and our employer members. So you won't find commercial stuff, pop-up banners, and other kind of spam and things on our website. It's all geared towards work camping. So when you become a member, you can access the job listings and the resources and really dive in and get to know everything you can about this awesome lifestyle. So please be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Okay, so quite a few of you guys who registered ahead of time asked, how do I even go about this? We're just considering work camping for our future, maybe going to be embarking on it soon. So how do I get started in finding these jobs and getting into the lifestyle? And then a couple other questions about researching employers and things like that. So, all right, so first up, as you saw on the previous slide, workcamper.com is a great place to get started. Like I mentioned, we have lots of educational resources on how to get started, how to do your resume, how to research employers, what's a work agreement, how do I do interviews, and all of those kinds of things. Some of it may feel like common sense, but it's always good to go through that kind of information because there's going to be stuff in there that you haven't thought of yet. And some of you maybe haven't had to make a resume in many years, and so our tools and resources help you with that. Our resume builder will take you step by step through the process. So if you are a member, you can find in our media library, or it's also on our YouTube channel. I recorded a video, the 12 steps to finding a work camping job. And so I go through in great detail, step by step, how we recommend you guys go about this process. And so, you know, if you're just thinking about it, basically kind of the short version of that is first you want to start going through the different job listings so you can see what's out there. Many people just think of work camping as working in a campground. And there certainly are lots of campgrounds and RV resorts that hire work campers. It just makes sense, right? But there are a large number of industries that hire work campers. So if doing campground or RV park type work doesn't appeal to you, there are lots of other opportunities out there. And the opportunities could be where you're working just a few hours in exchange for an RV site. So for those of you who don't want to receive monetary wages, don't want to have to worry about paying taxes and receiving income like that, maybe you're on Social Security or disability and you can't earn a certain level of income. Anyway, there are opportunities to just work and trade for an RV site and perks. There are jobs that provide an RV site. Some hours will be paid if there's extra hours available if they get busy. And then many positions will also do all hours worked are paid, your RV site's provided, and there's usually some other perks as well. So that's part of this process too, is knowing what you need to do, what you need to earn financially to make it work. If you do, still have some debts you're paying on, or you need a certain amount of income. The RVing lifestyle can be a more frugal way of living, but sometimes it's not. Just like with normal houses, and maybe even more so, RVs have issues. And so you may end up with some repair bills and costs for that RV that you hadn't expected, just like we have with our house and other vehicles, and health issues come up. And so you want to be prepared. You want to make sure you know what your budget is and then shoot for opportunities that are going to provide you that. So you're going to look through the job listings to see what different kind of stuff there is out there. Maybe some of the locations you want to explore, kind of narrow down where you might want to be for certain periods of time. A lot of the employers are seeking work campers. There's kind of like two main seasons. There's the summer season, which is usually April, May through September, October, and then the fall winter season, which is thus September, October through April, maybe May. So those are kind of the two main seasons that a lot of the employers hire for, but there are opportunities to work shorter terms than that and longer terms than that. So decide where you want to go, how long you want to be there, what type of income or compensation you want to earn, and kind of start making those lists in your brain. Look at the different positions and duties that are out there. There are some things maybe you would totally be interested in doing, and other things you're like, I would never do that thing even if you paid me a bunch of money to do it. So again, just kind of looking at what's out there and thinking about yourself and what excites you and what doesn't excite you. So you better know what to go for. So then once you kind of have that idea, then you'll want to start, working on your resume. And like I said, we have a resume builder tool that can take you step by step through building that resume. If you're a two-person team or family, and you're both going to be applying for that employer, then you can do one resume with both of your information on that resume. So you'll go through building that resume, put in your skills. Don't worry about that you don't have specific experience in work camping. That's okay. Most of these employers understand that work campers coming in are not going to have worked these specific types of jobs before. But it is very likely that whether it was in your previous career, just your life experiences, maybe with your church community or doing stuff with your kids, you've likely done things in your life that have given you skills that would apply to a lot of these different jobs. If you've maintained, the landscaping in the yard and a house before, like you've, probably painted, maybe installed a light fixture, mowed, planted flowers, things like that. Those are skills that could apply to some of these different work camping jobs. So don't just limit yourself to thinking about what you did in your work career. Be sure to kind of consider all of your experiences as a whole when developing your list of skills that you'll want to have in your resume. So once you got your resume going and you're like, okay, I want to do this, then it's time to start applying for the jobs. So we have employers that advertise. We have our online hotline system and our jobs magazine. So you want to be sure to look at both of those avenues, as the job listings won't necessarily be the same in both. And then we also have some employers, they never advertise their jobs anywhere. All they do is go into our resume database and do searches and just contact work campers that way. So you'll want to be sure to have your resume made and active in our system and be updating it frequently. And so that's going to get you contacts from employers. You can send your resume out to employers and just start that fun process of interviewing. And so then kind of some decision making comes into play. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So a few of those who registered for this webinar, you guys asked about, how do I find an employer that's going to be right? How do I research an employer? How do I know what I'm getting into? So we'll kind of dive into that a little bit. So first things first, you want to, when you're communicating with an employer, hopefully they're going to be willing to give you time. And so you want to be sure to do an interview with them. And that will likely be maybe just a phone call, or perhaps you could do some kind of, webinar or like Skype or FaceTime call, because it's always good to have that talking interaction, because sometimes emails back and forth, you can't pick up on tone, or, you're going to read something one way and they actually meant it this way. So things can be misinterpreted. So it's always good to have communication verbally, like in the moment conversation. And so I recommend developing a list of questions that you want to ask the employer and have those written down so you won't forget anything. And we have some example lists in our article index on our website if you want to check that out too. But you need to know as much information as possible ahead of time so you can make the right decision for you. Sometimes WorkCampers are driving hundreds, if not thousands of miles to these opportunities, and you want to know what you're getting into. So you're going to ask a lot of questions. You're going to want to know what the RV site is like if they are providing you an RV site. Is my RV going to fit on the site? Where is it located? Is it right next to the bathhouse and the dump station? Is it completely covered in trees? Because I really need to have my satellite TV to watch my football games on Sundays. By the way, will I have Sundays off? Because I really like watching football games on Sundays. So again, just knowing yourself and making sure to ask those questions so you know what your site is going to be like, what your duties are going to be. Start and end dates. Is there flexibility there? If you need to take time off because you need to go back home for a wedding or a graduation or a something or other, can you take that time off? What's the compensation going to be? Are you going to be, if you are being paid, are you being treated as a W-2 employee or a 1099 contractor? Because there are different tax consequences for that. So lots of things that you want to know ahead of time, again, just so you can make the best decision for you. I would also encourage, if the employer that you're communicating with, if they're just doing the hiring, they're not going to be like your manager or supervisor, ask if you can have a quick phone call with that manager or supervisor, just to kind of get a feel for what their personality is like and to make sure it jives well with you. Ask if they could recommend other work campers that you could talk to that have worked for them in the past. When you're asking them that question, you may more likely get a shill, and obviously they're only going to recommend people who had a positive experience with them, but that's certainly another place to start. And I had a thought, but it just escaped my brain. It'll come back, don't worry. All right, so you're going to want to ask them, oh, I remember, one thing you could ask the employer, again, just to kind of gauge some things. Ask what their return rate is. How long have you been hiring work campers? And typically, how many work campers come back to work for you each year? Obviously, if an employer, has work campers that return season after season after season, that can speak wonders. But again, a lot of things do come down to personality as well. Some people will get along really great and some people will be oil and water. So again, a lot of this is perspective, and if someone has had a negative experience, why was that experience negative? Was it just because personalities mismatched, or is it really a not good situation in general? So you're going to ask a lot of questions and see if maybe you can talk to your future potential manager and maybe some other work campers who worked there before. Also, if you are reviewing the job listings through us, through workcamper.com, online, or in our magazine, we have what's called our WorkCamper Experiences section, and this is basically where work campers have gone in and said, I worked for XYZ employer, and this is how it went. And they can say whatever they want. And this tool has been compiling reviews since about 2007, so quite a bit of information there. We still don't see a lot of reviews. It's kind of just like a lot of other review systems nowadays. It's typically people who had a negative experience, want to make sure no one else has that experience, and so they're more willing to go in and tell everyone they can, everywhere they can about it, where oftentimes people that had a positive experience don't get in there and share as much. So keep that in mind as well. And reading some of the reviews, you got to kind of read between the lines. Like I said, sometimes things were just a mismatch because of personalities, or maybe the RV site was really bad and the manager at the time was just not good to work with for anyone, etc. So just read the reviews, take them with a grain of salt. So the WorkCamper experiences section, when an employer runs a online hotline ad, if they do have any reviews, there will be a link to click right to those reviews, so you'll see that right from the ad. When you're looking at ads in issues of our magazine, which I recommend looking at past issues, current issues, to find the right opportunity for you, there will be a little icon indicating if they have WorkCamper experience postings or not. And you can just go into WorkCamper experiences and search by state, by company name, and just look through reviews that way as well. So be sure to check out that WorkCamper experiences section. And there's more. So we can just get on the Google and Google that business. Let's read Google reviews, Yelp reviews, TripAdvisor. If there are reviews on their Facebook page, let's just read even as many customer reviews that we can find. Sometimes those will be, illuminating to what type of culture or environment is taking place at that operation. I would also recommend doing like a Google Maps and, do the satellite imagery and like zoom in as much as you can, and try to scope things out. And when you talk to the employer, to find out where the RV sites are for the work campers, then you could maybe, move around on the satellite imagery to try to see where that RV site is located, just to kind of give you another visual representation of things. Also, there's a website, and I forgot to look it up before we started recording this, but it's a website that uploads pictures of different campsites, and it might be like campgroundphotos.com or something like that. If you just Google it, you'll likely find it. Not every campground, of course, is listed in there, but they have like on the ground pictures instead of, because Google Maps, you're only going to get that satellite above you most of the time. But that website has like kind of standing in front of the site pictures. So you could try looking at that as well to try to get another visual. And you can ask the employer for more photos as well if that's something that's really important to you. The worst they can say is no, All right, let's see. There's another website out there. Some of the entities that hire work campers are like bigger operations, Delaware North, Centerra, Amazon, etc. Some of those entities may be listed on websites like Glassdoor.com, and Glassdoor.com is where employees can go to write about their experience they had with an employer. So that's another resource that's out there to take a look at, but it's not like work camping specific. Also, there are some lots of Facebook groups out there now about work camping, and I think I'm at least in 15 of them or so. And so the information is very spread out and it makes it very time consuming, but you could go in and, search in the groups for that employer just to see if anybody has written anything about them in the past. So thanks to the internet, there's lots of, researching that you can do. But again, trying to connect with work campers that have worked there in the past. Oh, another thing I just thought of. So at workcamper.com for our members, we have a member map. And so members can, of course, go in and say, I'm currently located here, and put their pin in the map. And then you can see if any other work campers are nearby to you. But I would also recommend if you're going to go work for ABC employer and they're located in a certain city, state, go onto the map, zoom into that location and see if there are any work campers that appear to be there right now. Click on their little pin and try to contact them and see if they'd be willing to talk with you, see if they are working for that employer first, of course, and see if they'd be willing to talk with you about that experience. So again, lots of ways to kind of do your research, but we wholeheartedly recommend doing your due diligence. The more research you do ahead of time, just the less questions and surprises are gonna come up. And continuing on kind of with the interview and decision-making process, we recommend that every work camper and every employer get a work agreement. And this isn't exactly like a contract per se. It's just a document that lays out expectations. So whether you write it and have the employer sign it, or hopefully the employer puts it together for you and has you sign it. But again, just laying out start and end date, compensation, duties, expectations, any particulars that were laid out, like if you always need to have Tuesdays off, or you always want to have the same days off with your partner, or you need to work opposite shifts because you're parents and you have a younger kid that needs to be, taken care of. Those kinds of things should be in that work agreement. So hopefully the employer is willing to take care of that with you as part of the process, and that should give you a little bit more confidence than going forward. That way, if you do accept and do that job, if things start to change while you're there and working, you now have this, agreement to come back to and sit down with your manager or owner, whoever it is, and say, hey, look, this is what we agreed to. This isn't what's happening. Can we find a compromise, or what can we do to get back on the same page here? And it can be the same for the employer as well. They may come and be like, look, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. This is what we agreed to, etc. So it's really just another communication tool. And we have a video all about that on our website and our media library as well, all about work agreements. So you can check that out as well. So, and then you may do this interview process with multiple employers. How many employers that you apply to at a time is kind of up to you. Right now, like for the summer 22 season, lots of opportunities are still open. So if you are wanting to get going this summer, start applying now. There's lots of opportunities out there for you. So you'll do the interview process, and once you make a decision and commit to an employer, then you're done looking for that time period. Once you say, employer, I'm gonna come work for you this time to this time, do your best to keep that commitment. If something comes up, a medical thing, something's going on with mom and dad, we can't travel now, I need to take care of my family member, that kind of stuff comes up. As if something like that comes up and you're not able to keep your commitment, you need to communicate that to the employer as soon as possible and let them know. But if you're committing for that summer season, you stop looking for that summer season. Go into your resume, update it for like the next season that you'll be available. Change your availability date to, if it is summer season you're scheduled for, you're going to change it, for October something or other, and then change all your settings. And you can start looking for future positions. But once you commit to an employer, commit to that employer. Don't be a cherry picker and, just disregard that employer that you committed to because, oh, I found this other job over here that I think I might like better. Don't be that person. We're seeing a lot more of that in the work camping community now, and it's very frustrating. The employers are relying on their work campers. The outdoor hospitality industry is busier than ever. And so we need work campers to keep their commitments as best as possible. And we harp on the employers as well to be as fair to work campers as possible and make sure they're providing a compensation package and offering that is fair and in line with what else is going on in their region and their industry. So, okay, all right, stepping off the soapbox on that now. But yeah, so that's kind of a snippet of kind of getting started and jumping into finding a job. But again, we have a more in-depth video on that as well. But hopefully that can kind of give you some confidence in knowing what to do and jumping in and finding the right employer for you. All right, what is next here? Okay. Is it possible to be on call or work temporarily for an employer that we might be interested in working for a longer term, just to check them out first? So I believe these folks are work campers, and maybe they're going to be doing some traveling. And as they're traveling, maybe they would want to test the waters at a couple different places just to see if they would like it, and then maybe in the future commit to a whole season or a year or something like that. I haven't heard of this happening before. Very rarely do we see work camping opportunities that are shorter than a month. It just, you know, when an employer is hiring a work camper, they're hoping they're going to be there for the time period that the employer needs them for. It takes effort to bring in a new person, a new hire, to train them on how you want the job done and to make sure they get integrated into the flow of business and, you know, things are happening and flowing and going. To have, you know, new people coming in for a week here or a week there, et cetera, even if they're experienced work campers, really can be challenging. You know, it changes the whole dynamic of the workforce that's at that operation. So most employers would love for work campers to come and be there for the season that they're open, whether it just be the summer season or maybe they're open year round and they do, you know, 2 or 3 different chunks of seasons, whatever. So is it possible? Maybe. It can't hurt to ask. I definitely would encourage, if you're traveling around and you end up somewhere where you're like, oh my gosh, this place is super awesome, we'd love to be here for a longer term, I wonder if this place even hires work campers, like definitely see if you could talk to the manager or owner, and maybe you could do a light interview while you're there just to get a feel for the place. Like they maybe won't necessarily hire you to work for a week or 2, but you could at least get some information, they could get introduced to you, and having that in-person, you know, exchange is certainly going to be very valuable and make you, you know, stick in their mind a little bit better than just someone who emailed them a resume, you know, a year ago or whatever. So I would encourage you, you know, to communicate with people in person if you're there, if it seems good, but I don't know that doing kind of temp work would really work out. Again, it's possible, maybe like a Labor Day weekend or Memorial Day weekend. It's like, hey, if I can just have somebody wiping down the bathrooms a couple times a day, great. You know, something like that may work out, but it's really not something we see advertised by employers very often. Okay, and this question kind of similar to the last one, but I wanted to put it in there. How do I find week-long jobs? So, and let me kind of preface with this. We do see, and oftentimes it's newer work campers, folks who are new to the lifestyle, maybe even new to RVing, thinking they want to move around all the time and do a bunch of different stuff. As an RVer myself, and again, it's all perspective and everybody's going to be different. This won't be the same for everybody. But my husband and I have done lots of traveling quickly and staying in places for longer periods of time. And I can tell you the lots of traveling quickly, like stuff just kind of becomes a blur. It's like, we did go to that national park, didn't we? Oh yeah, and we ate at one place somewhere, and it's almost too fast, like you can't appreciate it. So what's super cool about work camping, and this is what work campers tell us, the benefit of it is being in a place for a longer period of time. And that could be 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. You're going to be there long enough that, you know, you're going to get to eat at different restaurants, or maybe you find a local coffee shop or library or bar, and you get to know the people that are there. So, you know, you build relationships that way. Or, you know, you're at this operation and you get to know your fellow staff. You're there for, you know, multiple months living next to each other. You're going to get to know each other pretty well, as well as, you know, ownership and kind of upper level staff at that operation. And one of the biggest perks of this lifestyle is the relationships that you're going to build. And the longer you are somewhere, the longer time you have to build those relationships with other people. And so that's going to be one of the joys. That's my hope for you, that is one of the joys that you'll see with this lifestyle. And again, just being able to eat at all the restaurants or hike more than one trail, or, you know, experience all different parts of Yellowstone National Park, because trying to see all of Yellowstone in like a day or two is exhausting, and you're just pretty much in the car the whole time. So spending a whole summer there where you get to watch the sunrise and the sunset, and maybe you get to do that on the lake or then up by the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, or, you know, go watch the rodeo in Cody a couple times, and you get to immerse yourself in the culture and the attitude and the stuff in that area. Most of you guys are doing this to see places that you've always wanted to see. So spend some time there and really get to enjoy and fall in love with that area. So leaning back to the question, there aren't a lot of short-term, week-long jobs here and there. It's possible there are, you know, temp agencies out there, this is not kind of work camping related, but you could get on with a temp agency that's maybe a national temp agency to get connected with very short-term positions. Now, those opportunities won't provide you an RV site as part of the compensation, but you know, you could find your own RV site somewhere where these different jobs are. Now, there are a few shorter term opportunities. One of them in work camping specific is the sugar beet harvest, and that takes place in like September, October. And at the shortest, it's probably going to be 2 weeks. It may run up to a month. It depends on the weather. And now you're not harvesting or anything. You're working at the receiving stations where the farmers truck in the beets, and then they pile the beets in these huge mammoth piles before they're processed to make all the sugar, you know, destroying all of Americans' health. So that's a shorter term opportunity, and it's a very lucrative opportunity because you're paid for every hour worked, and they provide you an RV site. If you are able to just work in trade for an RV site, like that works out for your budget, there are more volunteer opportunities that will be a little more acceptable for short term things, you know, like animal refuges. I know there's a few lighthouses that will do a 30-day stint. Maybe some state parks will be okay with shorter terms like that. So there are a few out there, but they're definitely going to be harder to find and a little more limited. So that's just kind of the way it is, guys. Add on to that. So there are other opportunities. If you are someone who is like, I want to be on the move, I'm not going to stay in one place, it's just not me. So there are opportunities that are move around type things. One of them is working for companies. One of them is AGS, and another is Southeast Publications. And these entities work with businesses in the outdoor hospitality industry, mostly RV parks, campgrounds. So, you know, when you go to a campground and they give you the campground map and there's a bunch of little ads for like stuff in the local community. So you would be the representative. You would go to that campground and then go to those businesses in the area to sell the advertising for that campground map or the campground's website or whatever. And there's a little more to it than that. That's kind of the basis of it. So you're going to these different locations and it's a sales position. You're trying to make sales, and then you're going to earn commissions and stuff like that. That's one. There are circus entities that hire work campers, and so those are going to be, you know, shorter term, maybe a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, possibly a month in different states. Even Straits Shows is one who's hired work campers for a long time, and they have like behind the scenes positions as well as, you know, out in the public positions doing the games and the rides and the booths and stuff like that. There's also an entity called Scoot Around, and they hire, so what they do is like they go to events like RV shows, conventions, things like that, and they rent out mobility scooters. And so they have work campers that like drive the trucks to the location and help set up the booth and the equipment. They have work campers that work at the booth to do the renting and things like that. So that would be a shorter term opportunity. And there was, ID plans is another one. It's a 2-person job, but you travel around to different business structures, malls, office buildings, etc., and then you measure and do other stuff to eventually create schematics for that building. like where the electricity is run, where lights are, security system, doors, windows, etc. And that's a paying gig that can move you around a bit more. So those types of opportunities, if you are looking for something like that, be sure to look, whether you're looking at our hotline or our online magazine, be sure to look at that multiple locations section. Our multiple locations section, because most of the ads are organized by state, so multiple locations is kind of on its own. These are employers that offer either opportunities in multiple states, or it's one of these jobs like I'm talking about where your job is not location dependent in one place. So be sure to check that section out for those types of opportunities. Okay, I think that's all the things on that one. All right, next up. Okay, how do I write a realistic review on an employer I had a negative experience with? I'm afraid of retaliation or being blacklisted. So first off, sorry that you had an opportunity that was not good. It definitely does happen. There are pickle work campers out there, just as there are pickle employers out there. We're not always going to get along and not always going to encounter the best of people. That's just how it goes. So if you did have a negative experience, first off, just know that in the WorkCamperNews system, there is no way for an employer to say, Jane Doe worked for me and it was blah, 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 blah. Like there's no review system on employers. Like that would be, I can't remember the word, but there's a word for it and it's not good. So that system doesn't exist. If there is some kind of online forum or tool or something that's out there where employers say, don't hire these work campers, I've never heard of it or seen it or encountered it. I don't know that that exists. It's possible that some employers know each other and maybe pass around information, but there's not like a national system for that kind of thing. So again, if you're concerned, none of us like confrontation. I totally get that. And so, you know, that is a concern and none of us like to feel like that. But don't let it hold you back. Just be sure to lay out the facts. You need to say what you experienced and try to be as detailed as you can about what was negative. When a review is put out there, whether it's for a product or work camping job or anything, and the review is just, this was bad. Like, you can't take anything away from that. Like, was it operator error? Was the product really bad? Was it cheaply made? Was it broken when you got it? Like, what does that mean? So when you're writing a review for work camping, whether it's good or bad, just try to be as detailed as possible. So you could say, you know, when interviewing with the employer, they described my RV site would be X, Y, and Z. When I arrived, my RV site was this and this and this. And so you're saying, this is what I was told. This is what I experienced in real life when I got there. And it's kind of the same for, you know, if it was something's going on with the schedule or with your compensation, just state the facts. Don't say things like, if you come work here, you will X, Y, Z. You can't say what other people will experience at that opportunity because it could be different for them. So you just need to use statements like I experienced, I saw, I felt, and just lay out the facts. Think about what you would want to know as a work camper researching that employer and write that. And don't use specific names. So use terms like owner, manager, coworker, terms like that. Don't, you know, list people's specific names. Yeah, that's really kind of, I think, kind of rounds the corner on that. So again, sorry it was negative. You could always put a review out there. If something does occur and you feel like you are receiving retaliation, you could always request to have it removed. If you want it to go away, at least you can in our system. But that really hasn't happened that I'm aware of. We've had employers, anyway, not relevant. I was thinking about something else, but it really doesn't apply to this. Sorry, my brain goes too fast sometimes. All right, hopefully that helps with this question. If you do want to talk about it further, you guys are welcome to contact us anytime, whether you're a member or not. support@workamper.com is our email. You can also call. We're an office with a small staff, 800-446-5627. You're welcome to call our office. We're happy to answer your guys' questions and talk about work camping. All right, so occasionally we do have employers who join in on our Q&A session. So this was an employer who asked, I'm somewhat afraid of hiring a work camper. Sorry for my typos, you guys. What if it doesn't work out? How easy is it to ask them to leave? So just like I told you guys to research the crap out of an employer, you should really be doing your due diligence on the work camper as well. So work campers are just like everyone else, whether you're hiring a local employee or a work camper, sometimes it's not going to work out. That's just how it goes. Some people you just don't end up jiving with personality wise. Some people misrepresent themselves and don't follow through and don't do what they say they would. It's just unfortunately how it goes. So you, employer, are gonna also have a list of questions that you're gonna ask that work camper to try to get to know them and feel them out as best you can. Now, employer, we do a monthly newsletter just for you that you can look at on our website, or if you become a member, we'll send it to you in the mail. We also have articles and videos and some online courses at workamper.com as well that you can go through. We have one course called No More Mystery Dates. And that's a good one to help you with the recruiting process. So you can check that out on our website to kind of help you with this as well. So you're going to ask them a lot of questions. You are going to call references. If you're going to ask for references and call them to see. We do have with our resumes. So some of our WorkCamper members, like our WorkCamper Platinum members, they can request to have us verify their work history. So an employer will list that they worked for XYZ employer this date to this date. And then when they ask us to verify it, then we contact that employer and we say, hey, did Mark Smith work for you this date to this date? And that employer is going to say yes or no. And if they say yes, then we'll go on to their resume and mark that it was verified. So employers, we do have that then in our resume system. You can check a box to only look at resumes that have verified work history. Now, we didn't ask any other questions, and get other details. It's just verifying they did those jobs for that time period that they said. But that's one little step to help you along in this kind of researching process. But I would call references as well if you can. And, some... It's crazy how every state has different regulations on what an employer can share about a person that worked for them. It's just bonkers. So keeping up with all the different states and all the different things that employers can and can't say. So it may be challenging to get any information about that work camper from their previous employer, but you definitely want to call those references and at least have that step done. Many employers will do background checks or drug screenings. That's always an option as well. That can easily be done with the work camper being remote anymore. There's lots of ways to accomplish those things. So I would recommend doing that. And again, just keeping in contact with that with that work camper. So you do the interview process, things seem to be good. You offer them the job, they accept, you get your work agreement, both of you guys sign it. And it might be weeks or months before that work camper is due to start at your operation. So be sure to stay in touch with that work camper. Touch base with them every couple of weeks or at least once a month, just to make sure they're still alive, still able to come to the opportunity, and just give you more opportunities for you to learn more about them and see what they're like, if they respond quickly, if they're positive when they're communicating with you, things like that. So that can give you some other kind of signs as well. So if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Hopefully it's tough. It's gonna depend, guys, I know. Many of you guys are business owners, you wear many hats. You're like, the owner, I manage all the people, I do all the bookkeeping, I have to order all the inventory and and you have 100,000 things to do. But it's really important, if you can, to put focus in building that work camper team. And acknowledging the work camper when they're doing things right. If they aren't doing things how you want them, be sure to communicate that calmly to them, and try to do things to encourage your work campers to spend time together, and for you to spend time with them. Maybe you could do a once a week or once a month like meal or a little outing or something like that, just to kind of encourage that community aspect. If things aren't going well, if they aren't doing things right, try to document it if you can. Take the time to do that. If you do have to do some kind of disciplinary thing, just be sure to do documentation on that for, the labor board and whatever, the unemployment stuff. If that comes up, they may want that kind of documentation. Hopefully you'll have that work agreement. So again, it's a communication tool for you. Sit down with that work camper, not in front of other people. Hey, look, what we agreed to and what we needed you to do was X, Y, and Z. What we're seeing happen is A, B, and C. Now, what can we do to get back on the same page here? If a compromise can be made, or what action steps do you need them to take to get things back to where they need to be? So just try to kind of calmly address that with them. Set a date to say, things need to be different by this date, or other actions will have to take place. And so that gives you a time frame then. And if things aren't better by that date, then we either have another conversation, or there's some kind of disciplinary action, or it's time to let them go. And asking them to leave is no fun. It's like I said, nobody likes confrontation, and it's just going to depend on the people. Some may make a whole scene about it, and it ends up being a really crappy day. Some will be calm about it and just pack their stuff up and go. So it's really it's just going to depend. But we really haven't heard of anyone, we've heard of employers who, told a work camper they needed to go, and they, yelled and maybe threw some stuff and just was real fussy and like boisterous about it, and, just a little ridiculous. But that hasn't happened a lot. Like, I don't recall any employers ever being like, the work campers wouldn't leave. I think somebody did have to call the cops one time to try and get the people off their property, but that really doesn't, that was maybe one time quite a few years ago. So I don't think that happens very often. So yeah, it's not fun, but you're dealing with people. And so sometimes you just kind of have to suck it up and do it. And hopefully you do your due diligence ahead of time and you end up with people who are awesome. And if things go great, maybe they'll come back year after year after year, and you don't have to hire as many people after that. So that can be super nice too. So I really believe that we can, manifest things, and that a positive attitude will always win out. So if you expect to have things go well, it is more likely that things will go well. So put the effort into it and move forward with a positive attitude, and that hopefully will help out too. So, all right. Okay, so what is the best way to get started? I really kind of went through that at the beginning where we talked about the steps to finding a job, but the best way is to join Workamper.com. Obviously, I'm biased, but I've been in this community, like I said, for over 16 years now, and so I've seen all the different stuff coming up on the internet, but at the end of the day, we still have the most job listings. Again, our tools are super robust. Work campers come in, build their resume, start getting contacted by employers the same day. So if you want to make this easier on yourself, please check out Workamper.com. Like I said, we've got the education and the tools to help you be successful at this lifestyle. And that's what we want for you guys. We want you guys to live this awesome lifestyle and get to travel places you've always wanted to be, and spend time and see cool things and meet awesome people. And that's our passion, is to help you guys and the businesses find positive matches and just enjoy and keep on, keeping on. So please check us out. We also have a podcast. If you guys are into podcasts, in your favorite podcast app, search for The Workamper Show. We do a weekly new episode each week on Tuesdays, it is. And those are a mix of interviews with work campers, those living the lifestyle, and employers that hire work campers. So you can get to know all about a different opportunity an employer may be offering by listening to an episode, or walk in the shoes of work campers who've come before you and learn what they did wrong, what they did right, and how things are going for them. So check out the Work Camper Show. We also have a website, workampershow.com, if you want to listen to that. I post articles to our blog. That's free, goneworkcamping.com. You can check that out and read some articles on there. Those are kind of in addition to all the content we have on our website. And you can find us on social media. Our WorkCamperNews Facebook page is out there. We also have a group called Work Camping Today. You can follow us on Instagram at goneworkcamping.com. So we're out there, and please feel free to connect to us and ask questions. We're happy to help. All right, so those were all the pre-submitted questions. So any of you guys who are online, if you do want to type in your questions, please go ahead. I can take a couple more here, but we'll try to keep this at about an hour. All right, so we've got one question in here from an attendee. Thank you. Would you suggest any prior education or courses? So, like I said, employers aren't necessarily expecting you to have experience in the types of jobs that they're seeking to fill. But there are a few things, like if you are interested in working in the office at a campground or an RV park, most of those entities use some sort of campground reservation software. There's only about 20 some probably different softwares, and each of them have a website, and some of them will have tutorial videos, some will have like demos available that you can try out. So you could go online and go through some of those tutorials and things like that to learn about using a campground reservation software. So that's something that you could do ahead of time. But that's really kind of it as far as like the specific duties. There is, if you're interested in being maybe like management at an RV park or campground, or maybe owning one in the future, there's an entity called the Association of Recreational Vehicle Campgrounds, ARVIC, A-R-V-C. I think it's arvc.org is their website, I believe. They do some educational stuff if you are wanting to be like management or ownership of a campground. They have some educational courses and I think live events that they're probably doing again. So you could check that out if you wanted to. But really, you could just go through the stuff that's on our website in our media library. We also have a section called University, WorkCamper University. And in there, we have our WorkCamper Marketing 101 course that talks a little bit about how to market yourself to employers. There's also like a short WorkCamping kind of 101 course that's in there too. But again, our media library is really great. It has a lot more kind of specific nailed down stuff about RVing and work camping. So I would dive in there as well. Let's see. Also, would it be beneficial to contact local campgrounds for work camping opportunities before hitting the road for the first time or maybe full time? And that's up to you. If that makes you feel more comfortable, there's definitely work campers who've done that before. School teachers especially, they usually have summers off. And so in the summer, they'll find just a summer gig that's close by and just do that. But certainly, I've known many work campers. Corps of Engineer projects are a big employer of work campers, whether it's volunteering or being a paid park gate attendant. But they're spread out, all over the place. And so I think there's at least one work camper couple I remember, and it was a core project that was in their town. And so that's where they started. And they just, would spend a couple months of summer volunteering there, and they just kept doing it. So they never even really ventured outside of their home state with their RV travels. They just so enjoyed that location and being there. They just loved it so much. So totally, if that makes you feel more comfortable and there is somewhere closer to your home base that you would want to work camp at, yeah. And you could totally then interview in person, and you don't have to do as much of the, mystery questions. what's it gonna look like when I'm there? And you know, you get to talk to the people in person. So absolutely, it'd be a great way to get your feet wet. I totally encourage it if that's something you want to do. But if you're, you know, someone who's bonsai and you're like, no, I'm going 1,200 miles, let's do it, then do it up. There's no wrong way. You should do what, you know, you're most comfortable with. So absolutely, definitely do that. All right. Well, that's all the questions that were submitted in, and we've run about an hour. That's definitely plenty of talking out of me for the day. But we have more, again, like I said, educational stuff on our YouTube channel and on our website. Hopefully, you know, you guys will join us for our future Q&A webinars. We're going to do these once a month on the fourth Wednesday. So feel free to join us next month or the month after that. And again, we're happy to help you guys. It's our passion. So please feel free to contact us with additional questions about work camping and anything related to the lifestyle. We're happy to help. So thanks so much for listening in and for joining us today. I appreciate all of you out there, and happy work camping, everybody. Thanks.